Thanks, Ramin, for the introduction, and thank you, Softing team, for the invitation. So as Ramin said, my name is Jan Möhring. I'm working as an ecosystem manager in regard of Industrial Edge in the business unit Factory Automation. And today I want to introduce Siemens Industrial Edge as a driver for digitalization on the shop floor and beyond. Let's may start with the, may you all know the classical automation pyramid, where the structure and the relations between the different components and systems are quite clear relations, right? So like PLC with decentral periphery, PLC with SCADA, and so on and so forth. So mostly it was an n+−1 relationship, but the last years we could see that the requirements within the factory and also on the shop floor has changed. More software is used, more components with connectivity possibilities are available. So at least, we see, or we could see, that the automation structure changed to a bit more complex and flexible structure. And that was the reason, or that is why we believe that the structure has a lot of benefits, but it's also needed, to be managed in some way. And for us, it's exactly the edge layer where it's going to be managed. So that was the reason why Siemens went for several years ago into the edge technology to provide at least a central management system to manage the edge devices and also the software to build on with the software IoT use cases on the edge platform. Now, what did it mean, at least? Industrial Edge, what are the main pillars which we provide with our Industrial Edge platform? First, we are really focusing on bringing IT more closer to the shop floor. What does it mean in regard of the data? So first, to process the data still locally, decentralized, close to the shop floor. Secondly, to get the possibility to store the data where they are generated and to transmit, if it's needed, towards the IT layer, to the upper layer. Also to have the possibility to lighten up a bit the IT layer, so not all the data are needed there. Maybe they also just needed to be pre-processed and then send them forward. Third is, of course, also to use the possibility what fits best to your IoT use case, means either your data can be controlled on-premise or can be also transferred to the cloud. Now, what that exactly means in regard of Industrial Edge platform from Siemens? Siemens Industrial Edge exists out of 3 components. So first, on top is the Industrial Edge Hub, which is Siemens operated, and the hub is, at least for the user, the global repository for his apps, for the different management systems, for the update management, etc. And on the factory level, there runs the management system, which is responsible for managing the applications and devices within the factory. So the management system is at least the local repository for the user within the factory, at least then also for the shop floor. The Industrial Edge devices are really mostly quite close located on the machine, so on the shop floor, and on the Industrial Edge devices, the apps are executed there and operated also from the device. And the customer can choose out of a huge variant of devices, also physical device or virtual ones. Let's focus a bit more on the management and device level. So at least the platform is the one thing, but you also need to fulfill use cases or to build use cases, applications. And for us, applications are the customer's problem solvers, right? So applications are always a central component of an edge infrastructure. So with Siemens Industrial Edge, we pursue the microservice approach. That means that there are always applications that are responsible for the connectivity and applications that process and present the data on the shop floor. In between, there is a common data layer, which is also placed on the device level. And yeah, in regard of applications, the user can select in a flexible way to say, okay, I want to have an application because that fits to me, to my use case from Siemens, or I can use some applications from third-party app providers, or I develop my own application on that system. Now, let me show you an example from a customer from the metal industry. And for this customer, the target was to gather data from sensors, to process the data, to analyze them, and then at least to visualize them, and everything on the shop floor, so not in the cloud system. Of course, in addition, they wanted then to have also the results in the cloud to get an overview of different factories. And the customer decided to use Industrial Edge for his use case. And what does that mean, or how we have started? Of course, the customer has not only one machine; they have several machines in the factory. And yeah, first they need the infrastructure. Means to manage the devices and applications, they need the management system. So the management system needs to be installed in his infrastructure, and this can be now in a different ways. Can be in a ESXi server landscape, or on Kubernetes cluster, or end of this year then also the customer can use the management system as a service. Means that at least provided by Siemens as a SaaS model. And yeah, if the infrastructure is set up, so it means the management system is set up, the customer then of course needs different devices, so where the applications then got executed. And here also the customer can choose between Siemens Edge devices or third-party Edge devices like Weidmüller. The applications now can be deployed and executed on the device. Beside of the respective apps for the use case, also connectivity apps are needed. In our case, for example, because we have a Fanuc CNC machine, the customer was needed also to use the Softing edgePlug Fanuc CNC to build up the connectivity. And connectivity is always the first step what you need to get the data out of the machine or from machine assets. And here the customer used at least the edgePlug Fanuc CNC, and then of course other application for his purposes. As shown in the example, we built also an ecosystem around Industrial Edge platform. So we do see here 3 provider roles, which brings value for our customers into our ecosystem. So we see the app providers, or we have the app providers, those who are focusing on developing and providing apps for different purposes. Solution providers, which are focusing on complete solutions for the customers and also setting up the infrastructure, maintaining it, etc. at the customer side. The device builders who are using at least our device kit to integrate that on their devices. So we call it also to edgeify their devices, that those can be also used with the Industrial Edge management system as a standard Siemens Edge device. And Siemens, so we are in the middle of the circle, so we are orchestrating the ecosystem, means we are providing some services, we are giving some guidelines, we're building up the community with the developers and users together, and also we are providing the marketplace for the software distribution. Yeah, here I just want to give you an overview of the different applications and the variants as what we have so far, which gives you a lot of opportunities for different use cases. And you see here also the microservice approach. This is at least also with the device architecture. So in the southbound, so on the bottom, you can see there we have the connectivity apps placed. So as said, first you need always a connectivity, and here we have different connectivity options like S7, SLMP connector, Backhoff connector, Modbus TCP, Profinet IO, and also here from our partner Softing in regard of the CNC portfolio like Fanuc CNC connector and Synumeric connector. Now in the middle on the device, there is the data layer, at least the data highway. Here is the data bus based on MQTT, and from there, on top, the value-added apps, so it's how we call it, the apps above, which are at least consuming the data, doing some pre-processing, visualize the data, etc., whatever the users want to do on that level. Here are also different applications for different purposes, not only from Siemens, also here from third-party app providers, or if needed, then own written developed applications. Now, from where can I get applications or software? At least here also we are providing a seamless journey for the customers. So the marketplace is our software distribution platform. It's a bit comparable like the Apple Play Store or Google Play Store or Apple Store. That means the customer can go to the marketplace, can select the application, can buy the application, and got it automatically provisioned into his system, so at least into his hub. And from there, then the apps can be contributed to the different management system and at least to the devices. With the marketplace, we provide a huge offering of different apps from Siemens and also from third-party app providers. Now, I'm at the end of my presentation, and hopefully I could give you a good overview why using Edge system on the shop floor and what's at least the offering from Siemens is. So let's summarize that shortly, what we provide. So we are focusing with the Industrial Edge platform on flexibility, means to provide a system which can be easily integrated into customers' infrastructure. Complexity in regard of software and devices needs to be managed in a central way, also to have the opportunity to manage at least the software and devices in a global scale. Out of the box, today IoT use case is quite complex, can be quite complex, and we want to provide easy workflows and also to provide an infrastructure which is out of the box, which helps the customer at least to focus on the applications and not on the infrastructure or on the platform where the applications are running. And of course, the ecosystem which we build up, where customers benefit from different portfolio elements from Siemens and also from third parties. Then thank you for joining this webinar, and please feel free to get in touch with me directly or now asking some questions if you have on your mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan, for the insights up to this point. I'm gonna hand over to Abel, and let's see what Abel has to share with us when it comes to softing products in context of the Siemens Edge connectivity. Over to you, Abel.
Thank you very much, Jan, for presentation and the introduction. Then I will continue with a little more details in our environment and software and why we take this challenge. Normally, in a typical infrastructure architecture in the OT side, we have the machines, the devices, and these machines are connected to sensors, to actuators, motors, and all kind of devices that they have in there. This is pretty clear, and this is more or less one part that is well known as the OT side, when we have, of course, our engineering station or system where we program all these tools and we can monitor more or less these devices. One of the challenges that is in the OT architecture is, of course, that mainly it will be not only the engineering part, it will require to connect to third-party applications or SCADA from different kinds that we have in there. And to do this, one way is not the only one, but one way to typically integrate different machines or different controllers into one SCADA or third-party applications is via, in the OT side, via the protocol that is called OPC UA. And this is everything in here up to here is what we call typically OT side. This, of course, in the plants nowadays is extended, or it requires to be extended to integrate to cloud solutions. These cloud solutions also is possible to connect via OPC UA, but it's also really common to find that one of the other requirements that is using here to connect is via MQTT. And then this part is normally or typical addressed by the IT side. But if we want to go a little more details in there, when we split this information of what we do in the OT side, the SCADA, it is more or less clear. It is based by the automation engineers. Those are the ones that go there and design whatever needs to be designed or addressed in the local applications that they have. But when we need to connect to trends, databases, or ERP system, then of course there are different providers, different solutions that are there in the market, and it's not straightforward that normally who is going to do this. It will be the OT side, it will be the IT side, because at the end, all of these tools require more knowledge than the one that it is commonly or based in this OT infrastructure that is reached to the SCADA level. Therefore, also part of the challenges is who is going to implement the connectivity and the firewall connectivity to these applications. In the SCADA side or with this application, normally it's typically some firewalls are well known, but when we need to connect to the cloud solution, external applications, intranet from the plant and everything, so it gets a little more complicated. And then of course the challenge is the responsibility from this. If we focus in this cloud communication, as we discussed, mainly it will be two main protocols that is possible to use, OPC UA and MQTT. And of course, these applications require different solutions. We provide in general three kinds of application solutions in there. The first one is a Windows-based solution. This is the most common known in the OT side, that it is based on a computer. You install the software, you deploy, you download the software, you install the software and configure the software in there, and then make it run. And then of course take care of the life cycle of the operating system and the computer that we have in there. The other solution that is really typical from the OT side is the installation from a gateway hardware device in there, and then of course this hardware device has their own challenges, and then of course this can vary from plant to plant due to the maintenance requirement that are in there. But the most complicated topic in here is nowadays, or it has been in the last year, to rely that the hardware arrives on time when I need to deploy the project, due to mainly sometimes external factors that we cannot take care of it. And then a third solution, like to complement this part or this process, is the Docker-based solution. This Docker-based solution, it also has challenges, of course, but in general, it is basically an application or an app that is running in the system. And one of the biggest advantages that it has is a fast deployment every time that I wanted to do this redeployment of the information that we have in there. But basically, what is this Docker? Similar, it will be a virtual machine. And the virtual machine, the difference that I need for every virtual machine to install a specific operating system where I can run the apps. And in the Docker-based solution, everything runs in the same operating system, but these Docker environments are capable to run different apps on the same infrastructure that we already have. And then, of course, that makes the deployment of each of these applications faster to do it. And then, of course, there are several solutions that we in Softing have in the market. But when it comes to the challenge how to do this in a global infrastructure, then it has specific challenges that are not easily to address when I want to deploy like a standalone solutions in there. And that way, in this scenario, one of the biggest industrial platforms that edge platform for this and that makes this really smoothly in the integration is Siemens environment, because they already designed all the infrastructure to run it like in that way. And then, of course, from this, the specific product that we have in the company is called the edgePlugs, and this edgePlug runs in the Siemens environment. Talking about the solution that we have, as we say, they are allowing the machine connectivity in the system. And then, of course, this machine connectivity basically is we have machines in there And then in these machines, I can connect via a network solution. I have the system that runs inside the Siemens environment, and then the Siemens environment allow me to connect externally via. I have here as an example as MQTT, but also allow to connect via OPC UA, like we mentioned, that is the most common interfaces that we have. Then for the demo that is there, we have some videos already prepared. You will receive a copy of the presentation, and here you will get the links for this. We have how to install the edgePlug into the Siemens environment and how to configure this environment into the Siemens ecosystem. This basically will allow all of you to see all the steps that it needs to be there, but in a straightforward solution, I will just show quickly how it looks like the environment that we have in there. The environment basically looks like this. You see it's like the apps that Jan mentioned, that it is basically like some apps resources that we have in there. So when you buy an app, you have a catalog in there. Then this, you install it basically in your machines, because you can have several machines. I have one IPC in here. Then you install it in here, and then here there is a configuration. When I go there, I just do the configuration inside this tool and in this or in this application, and then I configure, for instance, here any of the connectors that or the edgePlug C-numeric or the edgePlug Fanuc that we have now in the catalog is possible then to connect in here. And then, of course, based on this, we can get all the information. Like I said, all the information, you can see it in the videos to see the details in there. But at the end, the only thing that it is required from our side is just to have the IP from the device that we want to connect. And therefore, we give a name for this connection. And after we keep this, automatic connection is done to the device. This device reads the information from the machine. And then, of course, it allows to see what it is inside there. The only thing that needs to be addressed or configured manually in there is the connection to the PLC part, because of course this is 100% customizable. And then of course in this part it is possible to read the tags that we want to read or write to the specific variables that are inside there, and then it's possible to have the connectivity. So the main idea, of course, from the solution, like also Jan more or less explains, that we have a smooth solution for the user to deploy these edge devices, and then this provide this solution in a way that it is efficient to the plant and to the connectivity to the machines. And of course, the solution that we have is something with the main advantage is completely integrated in the Siemens Industrial Edge ecosystem. And that means that for this, you will be able to see all the variables internally in the structure of the Industrial Edge ecosystem to be used by another apps, or like I mentioned, via MQTT or OPC UA in external applications to read all the information from the device and to take the information to third-party applications in different levels that are required. Thank you for today. That is my finish of my presentation, and then now we are going to back with Ramin for the questions and answers.
All right. Thank you so much. Seems like you've been crystal clear, both of you, with the content you wanted to put across. There were one or two questions which were more about logistics, which I answered, but any question which comes up, if it comes now, we'll attend to it. Otherwise, you do have the contact details of Jan at Siemens and Abel here at Softing. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to attend to anything you would want to know. And please do take a minute of your time once the webinar concludes to let us know what other topics are of interest to you. There you go. So a little bit of chit chat, and we got a first question coming in from Josep Riera Castells. I hope I pronounced it right. Is there a demo version, something to our demo version or similar for the Edge connector available? So is there a demo version available or something similar for the Edge connector as OPC? So I'm not Abel, does
Well, maybe there's a confusion. The Edge connector is the general Docker-based solution that we have for this, and implementation into Siemens is called the edgePlug. But for both of these, there is a demo version. Talking the Edge connector, it is possible to have a 72-hour demo version in there that it can be restarted. The system, but in the edgePlug system environment, I think, Jan, remember it was 1 or 2 months ago, we activated this demo version that it is 3 months, if I recall correctly, that it is possible to get the application running in the Industrial Edge environment from Siemens, and then, of course, to test it, and, of course, based on the connectivity and what you can see in there, you can continue with the subscription that it's in there.
Correct. So what we have on the marketplace, where you can get the application, there you have also the possibility to choose first the 3 months trial version, which is 3 months free of charge, which you can use, which you can use then with that application.
Okay, then we got a question from Anthony Salisbury. Cost, what is the cost of the softing application, and is this a yearly cost? The version which is being asked for is for the 840D SL or PL version. So I would say that goes out to you, Abel. Maybe something we need to answer later on.
So maybe to the entitlement or to the subscription model. So on with Industrial Edge, we are following the 1-year subscription model. Means if you purchase an application via the marketplace, at least you will get a 1-year subscription auto renewal. So yeah, this is in regard of the software licensing, and as far as I can see on the marketplace, so currently it's 535 euros per year for the edgePlug numeric and for the Fanuc CNC connector, and you have the possibility with the numeric and also with the Fanuc CNC plug to build up 20 connections to at least 20 CNC machines.
Okay, great.
Yes.
One further question came in from Dana Yatha. All right. Do we have any connector available for Profibus connectivity without any additional hardware?
So naturally on an edge device, either from Siemens or from third party, there's no industrial edge device with a Profibus interface. So you're right. So currently you need something in between, like a Profibus, Profinet gateway, something like that.
Okay, perfect. I'll just give it like a half a second dramatic pause to see if any more questions come in. Otherwise,
there was here another question. If it is from the 840D SL or PL version, we read both. We read the power line and the solution line from the 840D. But of course, from the power line, and then maybe there is a little with the other one, it requires a small converter from API Profibus, let's say, to Ethernet. So there is also possible to do it like that. We have this device also in the portfolio, but it is possible to connect the power line solution and the solution line from the 840D.
Then from Hugh Melis, does your system integrate or use Six Sigma in order to anticipate deviation?
The system in reality, what it does is to allow the connectivity with the machine, and that means to read directly the data that it is from the machine. We are, in general, the application or that we provide does not make any changes in the variables that are in there. So we just read the data, and of course, there are some other specific applications that it can be developed in the Siemens environment or in a third-party application is possible, and then to integrate these kind of solutions to anticipate, to read. There is some applications, correctly, Jans, to monitor, for instance, motors, and then to see when they are going to fail. And all of these applications are made from Siemens or for third party also, or other providers like ourselves that in these environments.
Mm-hmm.
So the system will allow you to connect to the data that is in there, and then of course it is possible to integrate in one of these other applications that are already in the Siemens ecosystem, and then of course manage the data and do this predictivity of the damages to a motor that can happen in there.
Okay, let's see. Siemens, so again, Anthony Salisbury, Siemens 840D, can you read all variables in the machine and PLC tags, or are there some limits?
Of course, there are limits in the information that we can get in there, in the sense that, for instance, like I mentioned, the PLC part is something that is totally customizable in there. So that means that we need to provide which data that we need to read in there, but it is possible to read the data that is configured. The only thing that we see is in the PLC part as well as in the NC part is that not 100% of the variables needs to be read for all the processes in there. That's why the PLC part, we allow it to be like customizable, that you say, okay, from I want these 100 or these 1,000 variables to read in there, it's possible to do it. And then of course in the NC also we give a defined a selection of the information that it can be shared, and in the next version with the new features that it will come in the IAH part from Siemens that will allow us to import the device, we will have it exactly as we have in the Edge connector, that it is to upload the file, and then with this file, with all the structure in there, we read it, or allow it to be easily readable for the device that we have in there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Abel. Seems like we're through with the questions. So I'll take the occasion to thank Jan a lot. Thank you for partnering with us, also in this case for the webinar. Thank you, Abel, and a special thank you to the attendees. Reach out to us if any more questions come up. We're there for you to answer them. And obviously, I look forward to any feedback or any requests for further sort of webinar topics. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.